So welcome to Keele University and to our inaugural lecture series. My name's Christian Mallon. I have the huge privilege of being the Executive Dean in the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. So today we're here for Professor Priya Paudyal's inaugural lecture. Priya joined Keele in 2022 as Professor of Public Health and Director of the Institute for Global Health and Wellbeing. In being appointed, Priya became the first female professor in the UK from a Nepalese background. A huge achievement. Prior to Keele, she had academic appointments at the University of Aberdeen, University of Plymouth, and Brighton Sussex Medical School. And it's great to see so many of her colleagues here today from her time at those institutions, which I think really does demonstrate the impact that Priya has had wherever she's worked. Priya's research focuses on the health and well-being of marginalised and vulnerable populations, aiming to address disparities in health and healthcare. She works very closely with ethnic minority communities, asylum seekers, refugees, and migrant workers. She's passionate about community engagement and involvement and strongly advocates for co-production, participatory research, and creative approaches to fostering inclusivity. Since joining Keele, she's also been incredibly successful with grant capture, having secured more than £4 million in less than 2 years. In this inaugural lecture, Priya will share her personal journey, from being a school teacher to becoming a global public health researcher. She'll reflect on the challenges that she's faced, including moments of self-doubt and periods of uncertainty. She'll highlight how seemingly fleeting encounters can unexpectedly reshape your research trajectory. Through her research journey, from textiles to storytelling, she'll emphasize the importance of connecting the dots to find meaning and direction. She'll emphasise the power of giving back to the community and the profound impact of kindness from the people that she's met along the way. On a personal note, Kira's been a wonderful addition to the Keele team. She's passionate, hardworking, and truly committed to improving the lives of populations around the world. She's caring, compassionate, and a true leader. It's a huge pleasure to introduce Priya to come to deliver her inaugural lecture tonight. Priya.
Thank you, Christian, for the very kind introduction. I have been told I don't move too much because I think it's live, so I'll try to stick here. Welcome, everyone, for 6 o'clock this evening, after hard day's work, you are here. It's an absolute pleasure, and this moment is very, very special for me because my colleagues are here, my mentors, my supervisors, my family, my friends. I don't think any other moment will have this kind of crowd. So this is a special moment, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life. Thank you, everyone who made this possible, from catering to Ethan and Alison, who worked behind the background, audiovisual, everyone who made this event possible. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's a bit nerve-wracking when you speak in front of your families and friends and people you know. It's much easier to speak in front of people who you don't know. So what I will tell is, I won't bore you with much research because after a hard day's work at 6 p.m., you won't be hearing too much about research. What I will do is I'll tell about my personal journey, my story, where I came from, how I became a researcher, and I will also tell a little bit about the storytelling process itself and how it can be used in research and to improve life of communities. So I'll start a little bit with my childhood background and take you through the journey, and then, hopefully I won't be disappointing to you all. Is this? Sorry. Is this? Okay, yeah. So this is my childhood. I will tell you a little bit about it. So that's my dad in front, and that's my mum in the background, and that's my house in the background. It was a house where bricks were crumbling, the roofs were leaky, and we had a joint family of 22 living in that house. I would say life was a very much struggle. I didn't remember going hungry that often because we had a big buffalo which used to give lots of milk. I remember drinking lots of milk and geese, but no, I don't remember having fancy foods. Life was a bit of struggle. I have walked school in bare feet so many times. And my father was a high school teacher, and he used to teach in this school. I tried to find my own school photo. I couldn't because it was now a fancy building, which I can't relate to. So this was my father's school. He was a high school teacher, Nepalese literature he used to teach. And because my school was next to his school, primary school, and it used to finish early, and then once I finished my school, I used to go and sit at the back of his class as so you sit there, I'll finish my teaching and we can go home together. And he was an amazing storyteller. He was a teacher of Nepalese literature. The way he recited poems, the way he told stories. So I saw his students crying, become emotional. I saw how deeply he was respected by his students and colleagues. And that really left me an impact. I think being a teacher is a really good thing. And I had the spark of being in academia, I think probably started at that time. My mom never went to school. She was illiterate. Now she can write and communicate. She can, WhatsApp me and do things, tries basic things, but she never went to school. But she was always there to make sure we do our homeworks, although she couldn't help with our work. And that photo is quite special because that was the first family photo when we all dressed, I think, new, because new dress was quite, because whenever we had to buy dress, my dad would always buy the school dress, because if you buy a school dress, it will work for school and home as well, so it will have the dual function. And it was rarely other kind of dress we used to wear. So this is special because we all were wearing new dress, and it was the first family professional photograph at that time. And those are my two brothers who have done really well. One is professor in King's College London, and another is a neurologist in America. And that's my parents in the background. So I did well at school, and I got admitted to Kathmandu St. Xavier's College, which was a College of Jesus. It was a Catholic school college, and it was, I think, established back in 1951, a very old one. It was a very competitive one, but because I had good marks, I got into it. But I just couldn't fit into the environment because it was very elite, all Kathmandu-based people. I was born, that photo earlier was 200 kilometers away from Kathmandu city in a village. I hardly speak English. Where he spoke English, here it was all English medium. And sometime when it was run by fathers, and sometime we used to have meeting with fathers, individual meeting, and the night before I wouldn't sleep at all because I had to speak English with the father. That was very, very stressful because all my schooling was done in Nepalese medium. And then from St. Xavier's, I went to study in microbiology and MSc in microbiology. I had no idea why I chose microbiology. I had no career motivation, or I had no direction at all. I even went to Radio Nepal to give vocal test, which I failed miserably. And then, I wasn't quite sure what I'll be doing in my life. And I gave an MBBS entrance test because at that time it was quite a fashion. If you have a good degree, good numbers, either go to engineering or doctor. So I tried medicine. I failed there as well. And I just, with others, like it was a flow, going with the flow, I went to microbiology and did my BSc and MSc in microbiology. That's the Tribhuvan University, which is one of the largest universities in the world. I think with affiliated college, it has around 500, it has around 500,000 students. It has, and at that time, it was, I think there were only few, 2-3 universities when we were doing my university degrees, and the building wasn't that nice at that time. This is the recent picture. And transition to public health. So I had no idea what I was going to do. No direction, no career motivation or anything. But what happened is my house was next to the garment factory. It still is, actually. All these factories are still there. And the rug factory, so these rugs are coming in John Lewis and all the fancy shops around USA and UK. And in these factories, these were very jolly, nice people laughing and, lots of happiness there. But I could see lots of weakness. The they didn't look healthy. The laughter was accompanied by cough and wheezing. And I was kind of interested, what is going on with these workers and how can I help these workers? And that's when my friend, Biva, where are you? Biva and Padam, and they were, I think, recently married. They were already in Scotland, and they knew that I wanted to do public health, and so they brought me this yellow form because there was no electronic form at that time. It was a paper form, and they brought me, when they were coming to Nepal, they brought me this yellow form, and I filled the form, and they took it back, and that's how I got admission to University of Aberdeen. Aberdeen was quite an experience. No one in my family had traveled abroad for study, I came from vibrant, very colorful Kathmandu to Aberdeen, where it was very cold. All the houses are grey. And also lots of kind of stress. I remember I came with £500 in my pocket. That was also on loan. The fees were in thousands, and I had to pay back the loan. I had to, do the fees and everything. It was a lot of stress. So I would say my earlier days, I don't have very happy memories of earlier days in the UK. And later my husband came and joined, and it went a little bit smoother. I had never seen the sea before. And when I saw the sea, I was like, it was not wow, I was very scared because of the mental state I was in, all the pressure living. My daughter Arya was just 14-month-old. I had left her with my husband, and I came on my own, and I just felt like the sea is going to engulf me or something. It felt really strange, and that were the uncertainties. I used to work all day studying, 9 to 5 studying, 5 to 8 I worked in a hospital as a cleaner to make my ends meet, and in the weekend also I was working as a cleaner in the hospital. So that went for a couple of years. So I did my master's in public health course in Aberdeen, and that was very good. And I think that was the first time I felt like I have come to the right place. And this is my area. This is the place I wanted to be. And again, Professor Padam Simkara, he's here. He was my supervisor. I think lots of colleagues are watching online as well. Julie is watching online. Some of you might know Julie. She works in Warwick at the moment. And Professor Edwin, he was a course coordinator. And I'm still working with Padam and Edwin. We published paper 2 weeks ago. We got grant last week, isn't it? So it has been still a good collaboration. And Gary was my epidemiology teacher. And actually, before going to Gary, so this was my first paper as an academic paper from my master's in public health. And I think it's quite heavily cited, especially after the pandemic. The questionnaire we developed for this study, the instrument has been used in, I think, more than 20 plus countries, and we still get requests asking for the questionnaire. So that was the first paper which went, and thesis went really well. And Gary was the first he gave me the first academic job. Thank you, Gary, so much in trusting in me. And I worked with Gary pre-doc. immediately after finishing my master's, I worked with him. And he was, again, the one who offered me job after postdoc as well, immediately after finishing. So in between those two moments, I think I didn't work for very long, but I would say, I don't know, Gary might have different views, but I would say that these are very productive, time with Gary. And I learned how to do systematic review. It was Gary who taught me properly. And he was an amazing teacher as well. He used to lead epidemiology module. So I didn't know that at that time, back in 2010-12, I was already working with Keele colleagues, Julius. I was co-authoring paper with Julius. Daniel, I could see, so I hadn't realized that until I came to Keele. So I was probably meant to be here then. And when I was working with Gary, so that there was an announcement for PhD studentship, and I went for it. I didn't get the studentship, but the next day there was a nutritionist who got the PhD studentship, and next day I got email from university saying, we really loved your idea and we have managed to get funding for you. So I didn't get the targeted PhD, but the next day I got PhD. So that was really brilliant. And these are pictures which I took during my PhD. So it was on the respiratory health of textile workers. You could see the occupational health setting in Nepalese context. The covered with dust. The children were with parents all day in that dusty environment, lying around. If you have to dye anything and in color, workers actually dipped inside those containers. And I have seen someone up to the knee just doing dyeing the fabric within the black dye and chemical. They stood all day in those settings, long hours. In Nepal, you just get one day off. So if people work 6 days and these workers especially worked for long hours. And it was, it was the thing which I wanted to do when I was looking for public health. And as soon as I got opportunity, I got it with the help of my wonderful supervisor. I think he's watching online. He was very excited. Professor John Ayers. He was amazing supervisor. When I talk about kindness, he made me feel like I can do this, and he was always there, such a great mentor. And I could really, some people when you meet, you could literally feel the warmth in the room. So he was like that person, and I really feel lucky to have worked with him. And it was a massive study with around 1,000 textile workers. So we had the health questionnaires, we had the spirometry, they were doing lung function before the shift, after the shift, cross-shift lung function. We were measuring environmental exposure. We were measuring personal exposure. A lot of things were going on. I was helped by one. Now he works in, I think, Gary, Santos. Santos was helping with this PhD. Now he's himself a lecturer in global health in Aberdeen. And actually, we planned for 12 months, but we finished the data collection in 8 months because everybody was not like here where we do so much research that people get research fatigue, isn't it, sometime. There, everyone was willing to help, and people were actually queuing to get the questionnaire done. It was a really nice PhD and data collection process. And all these people were, again, the kindness they have. They wouldn't have any money, but they would say they would insist that they buy lunch for me or they buy tea for me. And it was, all their wishes was just food on the plate in the morning and the evening, and their children are well. They didn't have any big desires. And it was such a close moment. And my daughter was, I think, 4 years old, and she would go and play with the other children. And I took her into data collection process, and she remembers. She said she's remembering. And we published a lot from PhD, and Gary managed to put some backpen questionnaire on the PhD. So that's It was a respiratory health PhD, but with Gary's influence, you can't ignore back pain. So there was a back pain questionnaire as well. And I think these papers are, I would believe, like first among the pioneer papers in terms of occupational health in Nepal, and that shows you the condition of how things are done in LMIC settings. And then I moved to Plymouth because the job was finishing. And when you are a researcher, especially when you are an immigrant researcher who needs to be on visa, lots of things are not upon your preference or choices. I didn't have much option to choose what research topic I would go for. I just wanted to do research that would give me visa, at that time, so that I can stay and do some more research. So I moved from place to place, from one place to another place, looking for job, and that's where I went to Peninsula Medical School, Penn Clark. We called it, I think, Penn Arc at the moment. So I went there, and I was an implementation research fellow. So we did lots of exciting projects. It was a very small group of people, but very enthusiastic people. And we introduced like this direct access to rheumatoid arthritis patient, where they didn't have to wait for a 2 years review, but where they could call to make an appointment whenever they need. And that was new initiative or intervention we were evaluating. But out of the highlights, so I was, when you talk about research, we always say it takes many, many years from research to implement into practice. We say 17 years, I think, that's a lag. But that time, so it was a CRAS trial, if I remember the acronym. It was clinical randomization of antifibrinolytic insignificant hemorrhage. So the drug was TXA, which was used in hemorrhage in trauma patient. And there was a massive trial called CRAS trial, which was published in 2010 in 40 different countries. It was done in 274 hospitals among 20,000 patients. And what that trial showed was if you administer TXA within 3 years of accident or like trauma, then you could save life by 30% increased chance of surviving, reduced death. So that was significant. And what Penn Clark did was, it was 2010 that paper was published, and in 2011 TXA was implemented to all the ambulance and hospitals because it needed dose before they arrive in hospital immediately, where ambulance had to administer the drug, and then after hospital. And it was implemented over the whole Southwest, and later on it became a clinical guideline, and it was implemented all over the country. And I was the main researcher doing that implementation, and it went really well, and we were also awarded in House of Lords. That project was recognized. So again looking for job, and I came to Brighton and Sussex Medical School. I think many colleagues from Brighton and Sussex Medical School are also watching online. Hi, everyone. So I came in 2013 from Plymouth to Aberdeen, and first I worked, I still remember the day, Helen, Jackie, who both are here, and Anjum was in our interview panel, and they asked me, why should we hire you? And I said, I think I met all the requirements. You can tick every box. So I was really like, I got the job, and I first worked with Helen. It was, I would say, one of the very happiest moments of my life working with her, and she taught me lots of things. And I first did the qualitative study. I had not done any qualitative study before, so Helen taught me to do qualitative study as well. And when Helen moved to Singapore, then Jackie, so I worked with Jackie, and Jackie comes from very interdisciplinary background with humanities and clinical background and everything, and she was the one actually who introduced me the term co-production. I had never heard that term before, so Jackie introduced me to the whole multidisciplinary research, and I think after meeting Jackie, my whole research career changed into another direction. Thank you, Jackie and Helen, both for coming here. And my friend, my colleague Stephen is here. So Stephen, Liz, and I shared room for 10 years. We shared lunches together. We shared tears, laughter, everything together. Thank you, Stephen, for always being here. Stephen is a professor of statistics in Brighton and Sussex Medical School. I have so many people I think I might have missed, and Anjum always kept his door open for me. I could always knock on the door and go and chat with him. And I believe professional colleagues have a lot role to play in academia, and I don't think we acknowledge professional services colleague enough. So all my professional colleagues, Sonia, Roji, Charlotte, Claire, I think they hold the whole backbone. They do the tedious thing, admin and sending email, meeting invites, finances, all the things we don't like, and they hold everything together. And I really value professional services colleagues, and everyone out there, I think Malcolm, Maria, if I have missed any other name, Mike, everyone who is watching, all of you are in my heart, and thank you for watching. And one of the highlights of my BSMS journey was leading the public health course. I was a course lead for a couple of years. When I took the course, it wasn't doing great. Student number was really low. And I introduced a variety of new modules. All the assignments were very boring 3,000-word essays, and I introduced Pechakucha. I don't know, some of you know, Pechakucha is a presentation mode, which 20 seconds, the slides switch, and you have to tell the story really fast in a visual way. TED Talk, Pechakucha, and lots of presentation and other variety of modes. And the course did really well. The recruitment tripled. And when I left BSMS, we had 100% student satisfaction in the course, and it was one of the flagship course in BSMS. And one of the highlights was I published a lot with my students, because I always told them, if you don't publish, nobody except you and your supervisor will know your work, because months of work, it will be shame that it doesn't get out. So I encouraged my students to publish a lot, not just dissertation. Sometimes when I see opportunity, if they did good assignment, I even tried publishing that, encouraging that assignment. So for example, that second on obesity intervention, it was a module assignment, a small credit module assignment, but we managed to publish. It wasn't even a dissertation. So most of my papers have been in co-authorship with my student, and I really enjoyed that. And then I think on the left, she was integrating student from Kiel that time, 2020 graduated. Her name is Catherine Bates. She graduated with the distinction that time, and it's so nice when student I think the 2 weeks before, one of my students wrote, he's now Deputy Director of Public Health in Tower Hamlets. And those are the moments, you cherish, because it's so rewarding, everything we have done when we hear where our students are. And so I was here going back and forth to Nepal, always via Doha or Dubai. That's the most common route if you have ever been to Nepal, mostly via Qatar, Doha. And when I was boarding, I boarded my train from Kathmandu to Doha to Heathrow. Around 80% of the plane would be filled with these migrant workers. These are mostly young, mostly male workers. From very low socioeconomic status, unskilled workers, and not knowing how to put the seat belt, not knowing whatever the air hostess was telling. They didn't have any idea, very nervous looking, lots of uncertainties in their face. I used to have conversation with them when I was traveling, during the transit, whenever possible. And this whole, my research journey changed after, this in transit when traveling back and forth from Nepal. And if you don't know about the migrant situation in Nepal, Nepal is a lovely country if you haven't visited before. Mount Everest is in Nepal. Buddha was born in Nepal. And Gurkhas, I think I know some of you know Gurkhas. Gurkhas are from Nepal. They are known for their bravery. It's a beautiful country, and we used to be known by these things. But now we are known as Nepal's exporters of youth. So Nepal is its biggest export is its youth. And that article says in some of the villages you don't have any male. All males have migrated for work, mostly in Gulf countries and Malaysia. So mostly there are women and young children living in those villages. And because they come from low socioeconomic background, they don't have much education, they go into these Gulf countries and Malaysia, and they do these 3Ds job, which is difficult, dirty, and dangerous. You can see, without little safety net and protection there, the workers doing their job. And Nepal has around 31 million population, and over 7% of the population are currently abroad, mostly as labor migrants. And if you look at the age distribution, around 80% are those below 35 years. So you can imagine those who are abroad are mostly youths migrating, mostly male migrant workers. 90% of those who migrate are male. In mostly 85% in Malaysia and Gulf countries. But they contribute a lot to the economy, 25% of countries' economy, GDP is from the remittance sent by these migrant workers. It helps economy a lot, but it comes with lots of cost. It has a lot of cost. Every year, more than 1,000 workers die. And this is just the official figure, which has been compensated, and this is a very underestimate, and we don't actually know the real numbers of deaths. And you could see, if you read, this is the report from Nepal Migration Report, if you look at the deaths, these are, the young worker under 35, they are dying of cardiac arrest, heart attack, and suicide, and so many other, and if anything is not known, they lump into other causes. And so this is the condition, and many come in vegetative state, in coma, and losing their limbs. And so when I was doing my PhD, there was some spirometry and something where shipping from UK to Nepal, and I was waiting in Kathmandu airport that day, waiting for my things to arrive. And that day, 5 dead bodies had arrived from Gulf countries, and I saw it with my own eyes. These migrant workers and their families, sorrow. So that's when, and I think there was talking about the fleeting encounters, and there was some kind of, in one of the department, I forgot, Jackie, which was, so Jackie and I both were there, and when you have the sticky notes, have your ideas put together and let's discuss kind of thing. And when I was doing that, I put the migrant health on the sticker, and I think Jackie put something storytelling or something, and others had other thing, and that was the time where this idea, the storytelling using this interdisciplinary. I think it was not in a health department; it was in humanities department or somewhere. So idea of doing things differently, liaising with interdisciplinary. That in that project we had literary people, humanities, arts, social science, demographers, so many discipline in that project. And this project is very, very close to my heart because this was from what I have witnessed during my journey back and forth. And the idea of storytelling seemed quite nice, and more I read, more I did research about it, more I got excited. And like we have been telling stories for a long, long time. Every day we tell stories. Our grandparents tell their story to grandchildren. We tell our story. This is also, I'm telling my story at the moment. So the good thing about storytelling is it has been connecting one generation to another generation, and we have been telling stories from quite long time. And I quite like this quote, is as old as humankind, as new as its morning's new headlines. Through a story, we tell our hopes and dreams, and through stories, we connect, and every single day we are telling these stories. And some people say, what is so special about story, I think there is some people call narrative, some people say story. John Hagel, who is the expert in storytelling, says stories are about plots and action, whereas narratives are about people and potential. And I will be using those terms interchangeably. But like stories, like you watch film, it has a beginning and things happen in between, and then it comes to, and things unfold and it comes to end. And it puts like things together. But what's the special thing about a story is stories, one same story, different people interpret it differently. For example, today's lecture, some of you might say, "Oh, I really liked." Some have said, "That's not my cup of tea." So it's the same lecture, but one story, and people take it differently. And if I tell this story somewhere else, it will be slightly different. And why stories? What's so great about stories? We have gone to moon. We just had astronauts just landed from space to a few weeks ago. We can do the disease modeling, and we can see what happens in the next 50, 60 years. We made vaccine when COVID pandemic came within a year. But we have done these amazing things, but we are not very good at listening to people, understanding their culture. We might have scientifically advanced, but we haven't humanly advanced. We don't understand others' culture and try to understand them. So that, I think that was highlighted in Lancet Commissions also recently. We've done great thing with numbers, but not so much with narratives. And if we want to do proper research, I think numbers and narratives need to go hand in hand. So how do, I think most of you already know how do stories work, because if I had shown big graphs and numbers, you would say, wow, that's a lot, and next day, I don't think you will remember. But what's so special about stories is when you tell something, you listen, you imagine, you feel. Why do you cry when watching film? Because it's a story, isn't it? You have to engage in it, and that process of immersion into something is special about storytelling. And that's what it differs from usual fact sets and things if you tell stories. But bad stories have a lot of power to do harms as well. We have to tell good stories, because during the pandemic we knew stories did a lot of harm and then good as well, because lots of misinformation was there. And what does the evidence say about storytelling? It says it works. It works, and especially if it's a written story, if it's written in first person rather than saying John did this and that. If it's written as I, hello, my name is this, and I was, if it's a first person, it works better. And stories which have a lot of emotional content, it works better. And we did a quick review of storytelling in COVID pandemic as well, and that also indicated that it works to disseminate health information. And that project with migrant workers, it was a multidisciplinary, having multiple work packages. I won't go very detailed into the project, but as usual, we had the usual systematic review, qualitative study, pilot survey, all of these, and these showed the migrant migrants had mostly mental health issues, sexual health issues, injuries, and so many issues. And then what is novel about this work package is we looked at the Nepalese literature. We literally searched for poems, novels, songs, which had portrayed migrant health in these Nepalese literary sources. There was no particular database, so we traveled from library to library. We contacted author. We watched songs in YouTube, and we looked as much as we could within 3 months, that little window for that work package. And I think we identified around 200. I forgot the exact number, and of which around 49 were eligible for our, it was on migrant health and well-being. And this showed like a lot of hopelessness, sadness, deaths, longingness once you to go back home. And it wasn't very pleasant to read those. It was mostly around mental health and well-being and the hardship these migrants had. So based on the science, based on the literature, we co-produced a storytelling intervention with migrant workers, and it was an amazing project. We worked very closely with migrants and their families, I think we say a lot of time co-production, it's a bit like a buzzword these days. But I have to say it's not an easy process, co-production. It's quite messy. You have to work with them. You have to go with all the stakeholders, go back and forth. It's not a linear process, and there are darker sides of co-production as well if not done correctly. But it's an amazing process when done rightly. It can transform lives. It can transform research. It makes it very applicable, and it makes it very relevant and acceptable as well. So we did that project, and it's all the story and the video link. Everything is on that paper, which was just published 2-3 weeks ago. So if you want to know a bit more about what stories was co-produced, what was the process, you can find in that paper. And I had the opportunity from Kiel to do a little bit of follow-up recently with that project. So that project ended. It was a small funding project. That project ended, and pandemic came, and we were all, we had tickets to Nepal, but we couldn't go. We couldn't even disseminate properly the finding, and we had to left the project in middle. But with Kiel University recently, I had the opportunity to do further follow-up on that, and we did a feasibility. So we made that video in 2020, and we hadn't actually tested properly what migrants workers think about this video, whether it relates or not. And then we went back. I wouldn't be going into all of these themes now, but I'll show you some interesting quotes from the video where what the migrants said about it. I feel that this should reach everyone. Let it reach everyone. This should be by those who plan to go abroad and by those who are already working in Gulf countries. And these days, everyone has a mobile. This should go viral. This should go viral so that an environment is created to raise awareness. They really, really liked it because it was co-produced with migrant workers. And it wasn't the same district we did this feasibility study. It was in completely another district with another population because we wanted to test where the migrant could relate. And lots of migrants said, oh, this is exactly my life story. Others said this relates to very much with my husband's story. So it was about psychosocial well-being. There were so many issues, and with migrant workers, we decided to focus on psychosocial well-being because they said if our mental health is strong, we can do anything. So we can't focus on everything, let's do on psychosocial well-being. And they said, in depression, all we need is inner strength. This video gives me inner strength. And the other said those who have been depressed, those who have committed suicide. It would have been so much better had we managed to show this video before their departure. So it looks like, I think this video is really well received by migrant workers. But, there are not always positive aspects. There were some aspects which they didn't like as well. So they said, this video is mainly portraying the story once you go abroad. It doesn't tell much about the struggle in Nepal. So when we're making passports, when the trouble the recruitment agencies give, the money they ask, the harassment from these agencies, it should be portrayed that as well, not just the story from abroad. And that was struggle starts from Nepal. And in that co-production project, it was decided because male were the main workers who were migrating abroad. It was decided to, migrant themselves decided to focus on the male protagonist called Suman. He's the main character, and the story revolves around his character. But when we did this with workers, they said, ladies, you need to add ladies too. Female migrants have different stories. This doesn't represent female. So there were lots of other feedbacks as well. And in terms of dissemination, some said this should be played in Ministry of Health whole day, 24 hours on screen. This should be, we would, like you're so. Yeah, had we shown this video before, we would have to be much more aware. And there were lots of such. We are just analyzing this data because the data was collected just 2 months ago, and we are still doing it. And so that was the story, and that was the first co-production project, which I felt like this is what I really wanted to do. This is what I feel comfortable around. And I think a little bit helps because I am migrant here myself, and I could relate to the stories. I could relate to the lots of issues, although those are, in a different labor migration. But I feel really connected with that project. And the other project, I don't know how I'm doing with my time. Christian, yeah?
5 more minutes or so?
Sorry?
5 more minutes or so?
5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. I'll have to rush now because I haven't come to the kill bit yet. So I'll rush. Okay. So this is another project where it was done with the little funding, and from this project I realized that we don't need millions and millions to make impact in life. We can do things when done with communities in partnerships. We can do bigger things, even with small funding. And this was in the midst of the pandemic. The minorities were struggling with the health information. Most of them had direct translation. I read some of the things in Nepalese and it didn't make sense to me. And I don't know how it would make sense to others. And because it had no cultural context, nothing. And in Hindi, similar thing. There were a lot of translation, but exact translation from English fact sheet to Nepalese fact sheet. And we work with ethnic minority communities, and we co-produce this beautifully culturally relevant wearing, avatars with their dress and doing their lifestyle yoga and all those. It's all suggested by the communities themselves. How they said we want something, because this was with older adults. We want something where we can put it in our pocket. You make a little small folding booklet with all the information. And some people said we want a booklet and we'll stick in the fridge where we can have phone numbers, etc., when in emergency in COVID. And so this project was done just for the Kent Service Sussex KSS, but it went viral. It went to Nepalese in Australia, Nepalese in America, and it was also used by lots of clinical commissioning groups to make messages for Nepalese and Indian communities here in the UK. And it was also played in 20 different FM radio stations in Nepal, this message from the leaflet. So a small project had a really big impact, and the Kill Journey is coming. I'll probably give give me some more minutes. So Kiel, it was a sunny day in May. I was doing my work as usual at home from Brighton. It was around 2 p.m. and my husband came and said, "Oh, there is a job in Kiel." Like, he saw the advertisement. I don't know, from someone, because I wasn't particularly looking for job or anything. I was happy in BSMS. It was just next door university. Everything was going well. And I said, "Why do I apply in Kiel? Kiel is so far away." And he said, No, you should give it a go. And I just thought, like, Arya, my daughter, she was going to uni that September, and I had been in BSMS for 10 years. And I said, if I had to make change, this is the time. And I just filled the form. I didn't expect to get anything. And we went to Nepal because my dad was going under cancer treatment at that time. I got emails saying I've been selected for the interview, and I did the interview, and we went with our own life. And the next day, Christian called me to say that, I got the job, and I just couldn't believe myself, because I always had this self-doubt in me, because as a woman, as a young girl in Nepal, you're not encouraged to voice your opinion. So I never spoke in big crowds, or I never raised my hand to ask questions in my school. I was always backbencher, trying to hide from others. In work, I just stayed in the background and nodded and smiled and not saying much. And I had self-doubt. And when Christian said, "I've got the job," and I just felt that, like, do I really deserve it? Is it really me? Is it like he was trying to call someone else? And so it didn't really sink in. And thank you, Christian. And it was so that's how. So it was. And my dad was going cancer therapy, and Dad and Mom always wanted to see me as a professor, and I think that was the best gift I could ever give, and they were so proud. So that was a special moment. Thank you, Christian, and everyone who was on the panel. And I became a little bit of a celebrity after, because I was the first female professor in the UK. There were several, I think 9 professors. Isn't Professor Param is, I think, one of the pioneer ones. And there were already 9 male professors in the UK from Nepal, but I was the first time, and that news was shared 8,000 times or something. So, and I've loved being the director of the Global Health Institute here. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I have to say, I have inherited a really good institute. Christian, I can't see you properly. And from, established from passionate colleagues like Christian and Tom and Toby. I think you all were very pioneer in establishing the institute, and now it's a we have multi-million projects going on in this institute. And I think my job was made a lot easier because there were already very enthusiastic colleagues around. I worked very closely with deputy directors. Tom was deputy, now he's, where are Tom? Faculty Dean of Research now. So I worked closely with Tom, Helen, Jack is here somewhere, again, a professional colleague, Deborah, who pulled things together, who does meetings and all those things, and Gemma, who helps with global health application. So we had this fantastic, we have been working fantastically, and it has been an absolute pleasure to be to be the director of global health and well-being. And I'm very fortunate to be here in Kiel, and thanks to my husband, he saw the advertisement. And if you don't know much about global health, it has several keys area, and we have several partnerships. So I won't be going in detail. And it is a really global institute. We have programs in many countries, and I'm so fortunate to be working with colleagues who are leading amazing projects in LMIC countries. stories from leishmaniasis changing people's life. There was a clinic opened in Ethiopia because of this project. It wasn't even recognized properly, but now we have a clinic in Ethiopia. And my colleague Yemi, who is doing amazing work in Nigeria with musculoskeletal health. Monica has a fantastic project going in Kenya, and Saeed's mental health project in Pakistan. It's so amazing to see colleagues doing this fantastic world-leading project, which is actually changing people's life. And I'm fortunate to be working here with colleagues. And we had an opportunity to go to a little bit Nepal, do things. I was counting, we completed 7 different projects in Nepal in 2024. That's a lot. And I had the opportunity to take some of our Keel colleagues. Andrew is here. I think he said that was one of his best trips of life. So happy colleagues there, and Biva and other colleagues here. So we did multiple projects last year. We've been wrapping papers from this project, and also work in other infectious diseases with Bangladesh and Nepal is going very well, and we are working on a grant. There is already papers out and a couple in the pipeline. And also in terms of capacity building, we have done quite a lot. Yemi has been doing great things in Nigeria. We did in Nepal. Monica, Jack, all were there. We had fantastic workshops where lots of stakeholders from Ministry of Health and all the key people came into that workshop. And we are, planning future activities as well. And we just got, like with Professor Padam leading, we just got this funding from British Academy to do more capacity building work and establish evidence synthesis work in Nepal. And public health. So I have fantastic opportunity to do public health with Paymane and Miranda and the wider public health team. Thank you for coming and joining here today. I was introduced to a whole new lot of public health colleagues in the UK with this network. It has been fantastic. We got another big grant of 2.5 million, which both Miranda and Paymane are leading. And from that project, we are working very closely with local authorities to evaluate multiple projects in terms of health and well-being, prison livers, prison and then zero-emission buses, so many different projects with local authorities. And via that and via various other public health networks, we have secured multiple grants based on those networks and with Keel colleagues and elsewhere. And very fortunate to work with Caroline and Yemi, Chrissa, Tom, Chris, Rachel, Calvin K. I'm sorry if I have missed anything because I was, it's a lot of colleagues I work closely. It's not intentional if I have missed anyone. And people say so few years, until a few years ago, when people asked me, what is your research area? I struggled. I really struggled, because I've done respiratory health to musculoskeletal health to textile to migrant health so my CV is very random, and I think I felt that a few years ago I thought that was the weakness, but now I can really see and connect the dots. Looking back, most of my work has been focused on vulnerable population, underserved population, and I have worked very closely with communities and low resource settings in most of my work. And I can proudly say that I work closely with underserved communities. I work, co-production is my expertise, and community partnership is my expertise, so I can proudly say that. But until a few years ago, and what I realized is vulnerable, underserved population, no matter where they are, either in the UK, I've worked here in the UK with vulnerable population in Nepal and elsewhere, they all have similar issues. They are marginalized, they are discriminated, they have to face stigma, they have low socioeconomic condition, they have the same issues. So when we talk about public health, global health, I think it's all same. We all are facing same problem everywhere. And so that's I just wanted to say we have more common, whether it's global health or public health. And yes, so thank you to, I have been fortunate, and I tell all my colleagues, people ask me when you leave, how's your new job going, and then I say Kiel has been amazing, and we have great visionary leader, Christian, thank you so much for leading with empathy, kindness, and who are not afraid to be vulnerable, who are supportive, who are always there and approachable with you. And I think it's a really life-changing experience for me, because growing up, the idea of my leadership was, very different when I was growing up in Nepal, and it's such a lovely environment in Kiel here. Krista, thank you. Your fight for inclusivity and community partnership is amazing. Daniela, always having those monthly catch-up. David, your interdisciplinary, effort to bring Institute together. Peter, leading in a difficult time. Antonius with Nepal's work. So many other colleagues. Our VC here, right, supporting from the very top. So we have an amazing thing. I'm not just saying because I'm in Kiel, but I do feel that because I have worked in various institutions, and because the leadership is so supportive and engaging and accessible and positive, that makes difference, whole workplace environment different. And I have been very fortunate to be working here. And that's my family, that's my in-laws, and us here. This is my siblings' family, 3 siblings' family. That's my dog. And when I came to the UK, Arya was 14. I left her with my husband. That was the photo was on the day I left her to come to UK, do my master's in public health, and that was her in my PhD graduation, and now she has been this young, fine woman who is studying medicine at Cambridge, and hopefully she'll be a good doctor. And thanks to my husband who is here, who has been we met when we were 17. That was when we were dating, it was not very common to date before marriage in Nepal, so that was, we were that photo, I didn't show it to my parents for a long time. and we got married when we were both 20, and we've been married for nearly 28 years. You now know my age, So he has been the kindest person. Arya says, I think Baba is the kindest person and also the greatest feminist. He has championed our daughter and myself throughout our life, and thank you so much for always being there. And thank you, everyone. Again, I will leave it with a few pictures from Nepal. If you ever thinking of visit, don't even hesitate. Just go to Nepal. Thank you so much.